a variety of reasons potentially that are reasonable to explain the difference in voter ID getting so many more voters. And the most readily available reason is that Democrats support voter ID too. So these fights are ongoing, and and this issue of non-citizen voting is a big deal. And the left wants you to believe it's not an issue. And of course they say, well, it's not a big issue, which is different than saying it's not an issue at all. And if people think that non-citizens are voting, they think the elections are being compromised. And we have a right to ensure that our elections are not compromised. And Elon Musk had a big event before these Wisconsin Supreme Court state elections, in the state Supreme Court election in Wisconsin this week. And he had one of his colleagues from Doge come on and shared some astonishing data, not only as it relates to the Biden illegal alien invasion, but the possibility that non-citizens are also, as a result, voting in our elections. Let's go to that.
This is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. This country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America.
And it's the numbers, just as he says later in the video, I think, they tracked down some of the non-citizen Social Security numbers and found that they were voting by the thousands, at least in one state, as I recall the statement was. So look, we have tens of millions of non-citizens in the United States. A certain number of them are going to register to vote contrary to law. Some will do it mistakenly. Most won't. They think they can get away with it. That's my suspicion. But either way, a certain number is going to register to vote. And of those, a certain number is going to vote. Once you're registered to vote, voter ID ain't going to stop you, because many non-citizens have the ID sufficient in order to vote. And that's why Trump's reform to better ensure that proof of citizenship is required before you register to vote is so important. And as I said, the left opposes all of that. And there have been studies. There was a significant study from several years ago, and they looked at data from one of the Obama year elections. It was either 2008 or 2010. And they found that non-citizen voting in this study, as quoted in the Washington Post, was sufficient to sway the election in favor of some key Democrat senators who were the key votes in getting Obamacare passed. I mean, so those are the consequences down the road of non-citizens being able to vote. You don't need a large number in order to sway elections. And of course, any one person voting illegally cancels the legal vote of a citizen out. So frankly, one's too many as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure you agree with me on that. And then there's the other issue of getting or mass deporting non-citizens from the United States, because the other way in which the presence of non-citizens can impact elections is by counting them for purposes of apportionment under the census. So if non-citizens are, let's say, residing in New York, they get counted. And when they figure out how many people live in New York and how many seats for Congress or how many seats for the Electoral College in New York should get, those non-citizens get counted in favor of New York. And when you've got tens of millions of non-citizens here in the United States, you're talking about real numbers. And they tend to be in states that benefit in terms of being blue. Democrat states tend to benefit, studies have shown, and are likely to benefit again with the added power, either maintained or expanded, in terms of congressional representation and electoral college representation, as a result of the presence of non-citizens being counted for purposes of apportionment. And it's really a simple issue. And you know, I want to go back to the beginning. One way to kind of cut through all of this is to make sure the voting rolls are clean. Not only of people who have voted, or who are moved away or died, but non-citizens. And I talked about this issue generally in CPAC, and it was a good little summary. Let's run that.
And of course, we have to ensure voting rolls are clean, because dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections. The rolls are a mess, but Judicial Watch's heavy lifting is getting results. Our historic election lawsuits and pressure have led to 4 million dirty names being removed from the voting rolls in the last year or so.
So the issue of the dirty voting rolls is a significant one. It remains one. And there are millions more that need to be cleaned up, and that's why we're in federal court now. And on top of that, we've had elections in Wisconsin. It was very curious because I talked about the popular vote for Wisconsin. I want to show a tweet I posted, because you had a very far left member of a far left judge win and get an election to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And also on the ballot was a constitutional amendment, a strong one, for voter ID. Wisconsin already has voter ID. And the concern was that the liberal Supreme Court, which would be further solidified by this judge, would overturn it. And that's why they inserted it into the Constitution through the amendment, through this voting process here. And the numbers for the voter ID were much more than the number for the left-wing judge who was running. Let's go to the tweet now. And this is what I posted. Strong voter ID constitutional amendment received about 145,000 more votes than the winning leftist Supreme Court candidate. And then I posted shortly thereafter, and you can see it got a lot of attention, 1.3 million, so it did go viral. The difference is narrowed a bit to around 132,000 votes. And since then, what is it, 135,000 votes? So I think that's probably going to be close to the final number, 135,000 votes. Now, I posted the tweet thinking, well, isn't this interesting? Voter ID has more support than the left-wing judge who is now going to be a member of the Supreme Court. Others looked at those numbers and said, well, that's an indication of fraud. They are suspicious of it. And it's like, well, you know, that's one conclusion one can draw. I mean, there are a variety of reasons potentially that are reasonable to explain the difference in voter ID getting so many more voters. And the most readily available reason is that Democrats support voter ID too. So the fact that a bunch of Democrats came out didn't mean they wouldn't vote against voter ID, because they support it. It's the Democratic Party leadership and extremists in the party that oppose voter ID. But I don't know what the full answer is, because it does raise questions. But I did raise it initially to highlight the strong support for voter ID in an election where it was a nationalized election, right? You had Elon Musk spending a bunch of money, President Trump getting involved. Obviously, the Democrats spent a bunch of money to try to get that judge in place. And so all this focus on the election, and out of it comes overwhelming public support for one of the strongest voter ID laws in the country, which is now Wisconsin. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.